Yo, I've got the new merch on, and I told you guys I was going to launch the site today, and I did. It's a pre-launch, but I've still got to get a few things organized so I can really push it on Instagram and show you guys the other content that I've got going. But this is a pre-launch, so if you go to corncraze.com, you guys can check out the merch because I know there are going to be a lot of questions about it since I'm wearing it right now. But we're going to talk about more of the merch later because I've got a very special guest today. Really quick, because I saw some of you guys in the chat. The tech issues are solved on my end. I had a guy from Spectrum come out this morning, rewired my room with the Wi-Fi, got actually 5 times speed. So we're going to be totally cool on my end. No drops. We're good with the Wi-Fi. Now, my guest is Jon Johnston from Corn Nation, and he's a little bit different from me, as a lot of you know. He's very emotional. So his reactions and his takes come out of his heart, whereas mine come from my brain after I've sat and chilled out for about 30 minutes, because I don't want to just give you guys that reaction like Jon gives you, because if I do, I'll be yelling and cursing and being kind of an asshole. Now, I'm not calling Jon an asshole. I think Jon's a solid guy, but this conversation with him will be a little bit different when it's with me, because I've got the calm and relaxed feel. Jon's got the emotional and excited feel. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. But right now, I want to bring in Jon Johnston from Corn Nation. He's been covering Nebraska football for what, 16 years, Jon?
Yeah, I think this will be the 16th year. Corn Nation started in 2006.
So
I think if you do the math.
Yeah, it's a long time. I've only been covering Nebraska football on YouTube for, I think, a year and a half. So, I'm just a baby in this whole situation. And I actually started watching your videos about, what was it? I guess a year ago, when you had that reaction to the Minnesota game. You guys have probably seen this clip. He says, "Fuck everything, go Big Red." And then I think that went pretty viral on Twitter, for Husker Twitter at least. And yeah, but Jon, welcome to the show. This is Corn Craze. We have some crazy Nebraska football fans in here. These guys are awesome. They come to this live show every single week, and they've been demanding heavy hitter guests. And I was like, geez, who could I get that would be a heavy hitter? So as you know, I reached out to you, and now we've got a Husker legend himself in Jon. So Jon,
oh my God,
thanks for being here.
The fuck everything, go Big Red thing actually started in the Illinois game, because we lost the first game. That was the first game of the season, and we lost it. And I was very upset. And I walked down to a bench that's about, I don't know, 300 yards from my house in a small park where children play. And I just sat there, and at the end of it, I usually, at my videos, I try to say something like, at least we have this hope, or at least this is a positive thing. In the back of my head, I said, there is no hope for this. And then that's just what came out. And then the Minnesota game, I mean, that blew up. And
was the Minnesota game in Minnesota? Is that why you were at that one?
Yeah.
What do you normally do? Do you just go to those games? Because you obviously cover Nebraska football, but you're out of state. So how's that work?
I've tried in the past to get to at least a couple games a year. I usually go on the field at the spring game. I don't know. The Minnesota game might be the last one that I do on the field, just because if I don't figure out the brain and the health issues, I don't want to be any kind of a hazard to anything, because you're right close to everything that's going on, and you have to move. No matter what sport you're doing. I mean, I've shot women's gymnastics and had a Nebraska gymnastics gymnast land or tumble literally 2 feet in front of me. And you have to pay attention to that stuff. Gable Stevenson threw a Wisconsin wrestler in the frickin' air, landed 3 feet in front of me. So, I've had some good moments doing that stuff, but I usually try to attend most of the Minnesota and Nebraska events. And then I do try to get back to Nebraska, but it hasn't gone well. I mean, we had the pandemic, and then,
Well, for me, my perspective is, I don't want to go back to Nebraska until we're actually winning. And this is the first time I'm going back to Nebraska since 2019. I actually said this in 2017. After that Wisconsin game, it was a pretty close one, actually, but it wasn't the Mike Riley year. They ended up losing that. And I was on the little airplane, whatever that was, the bus to go back to the rental cars. And I was in there with a bunch of Husker fans going back home. And we all made a commitment together. We're done coming to Nebraska games until they get this shit sorted out. And I thought after 2018, they had sorted it out. So in the offseason going into 2019, I bought the tickets. I was ready to go. Took my mom, had my cousin, a couple of my friends who had never been to Nebraska, a Nebraska game. And it was a blowout loss against Ohio State. So I feel you on the not going back to Nebraska, and I wouldn't if I was you until they get their shit together. Because why? It's just not fun. But anyway, guys, yeah.
I sat in the actually sat in the crowd during this spring break game, and the first time I was in the crowd since actually I went to a game with my brother. The Northwestern Hail Mary game was the last time I'd actually been in the stands, and it was, I don't know, it was just kind of different. And I thought, I could probably do this. But I mean, Nebraska events like that, they're supposed to be, where the whole state comes together and you see people, I don't know. I grew up in a small town in western Nebraska. You see people from there. You see people you competed against for many decades ago, but it's supposed to be a great event and a lot of fun. And it's just, the on-the-field product needs to improve by a great deal.
For sure. Well, speaking of the on-the-field product, I want to take some questions. So Matthew brought up something. It says it looks like the option is going to be a part of the offense again this year. And I talked about this in one of my recent videos. The option plays that they're running at practice look pretty similar to what we saw from Scott Frost before. So John, obviously you've been a critic of Scott Frost's offense in the past, or Scott Frost just in general as a manager and a coach. What is your thought in keeping the option this year?
Well, when you go back to the Illinois game at the beginning of last year, I mean, Illinois sold out against the run. They really did. And we didn't run a single misdirection play. And, having the option as part of your offense, I think is a good idea for them. But here's the thing. It can't be something that you just dabble in because of the timing and the techniques for pitching and stuff. You can't just dabble and say, I think we're going to run an option this week. So I would look at it and say maybe they're going to have like Logan Smothers have a package for him. I would love to see them do that. Minnesota does that to us with Tanner Morgan and Cole Kramer, where they switch it up between them. And they had a quarterback before that, Seth Green, I think it was, a real big guy that they ran on goal line and short situations. I would love to see us do that kind of stuff. But I think the option would be fine with it'd be the misdirection. It would be the get to the ball at the outside very quickly or keep it inside, depending upon how the defense aligns. It would be fun.
It would be fun, number one. And number two, it worked against Northwestern specifically last year. So if it worked against them then, I would hope they can make it work against them again. But obviously, we're very excited to see the passing game. And they say that Scott Frost isn't managing the offense now. He's not calling the plays. If you had, obviously, you're not at practice or anything. You're an outside source. But if you had to take a guess, what do you think Frost's involvement with the play calling is going to be this year? Because they haven't really talked about the play calling. They say he's not coaching quarterbacks, all Whipple, and Whipple's in charge of the offense. But when it comes down to play calling, what are we looking at?
Ooh. I would hope that he stays out of it. It's funny when you watch coaches from down on the field, right? You can see how they interact with their team more because you're not constrained by like a camera. And one of the things that always struck me was like James Franklin at Penn State would step it to the side and let his assistant coaches come out during timeouts and breaks and quarter breaks and stuff like that. And he would just basically be off to the side and he'd say something to his assistant coach, but he wouldn't get directly in everybody's faces. And I think that any more college football coaches have to do so much stuff. Frost, when he came in, said, I want 150 people on a roster. Well, that's 150 people you got to babysit. You know what I mean? You get the call at 2 a.m. in the morning that something's going on that's nefarious. Or 30 or 40 more guys than normal. That would be terrible. So I would hope that, go back to play calling. I hope he just turns it over to Mark Whipple and becomes a game manager because there's so much stuff going on a college sideline that if you're trying to look at what's going on with defensive alignment and doing this stuff, you're not paying attention to other stuff that could be happening, and somebody needs to do that.
Fair enough. I like that, and I hope the same. Obviously, if Whipple was so successful last year, I hope he can duplicate it now and not have Frost get in his way since that was a failed experiment. So here's another question I've got. It says from Chase, that Raiola did an interview today, and he trusts 7 guys to do the job on the offensive line and says they're ready to play. How much do you trust the offensive line? Because I'm going to say first, I think the offensive line could completely make or break the season. And the offensive line doesn't need to be great. Hell, they don't even need to be good. They just have to be serviceable. Nebraska had a really productive offense last year, outside of not being able to score in the red zone and outside of the turnovers. But when they didn't turn it over and when they weren't in the red zone, they could move the ball. If the offensive line just doesn't give up too many sacks or doesn't put too much pressure on Casey to make a bunch of plays like I can't remember his name, Adrian had to do last year. That was not shade towards Adrian. I love Adrian, as you guys know.
That's not true. That was shade.
That was not shade.
That was shade. He told me he was going to do it before the show. He said, I'm throwing shade at Adrian.
Get out of here, Denon. Anyway, the point is, if the offensive line is just good enough to not break down completely and not be the worst Power 5 offensive line in the country, my guess is they're going to be good. But John, what do you think? Is the offense going to have a better offensive line? And if they're not going to have a better offensive line, are they going to have a productive offense without the offensive line?
Ooh, number one, my first reaction to that was 7 guys. Is that going to be enough? Because you're basically talking about like 320-pound tanks that just bang into each other for months at a time. They just bang into each other over and over and over. So, I don't know, 7 guys. What was the question? Are we going to have a good offensive line?
No. Here's the question. It's a 2-part question. It's number 1. Will the offensive line be better than it was last year? And they don't have to be much better. They got to be better than last place in the Power 5. The second part to that question is, if they are not any better and they are the exact same as they were last year, will the offense be better than it was last year, or will the offense face the same struggles?
I think I would hope that the offensive line would be better. But I think really when you look at a team and you're a coach, you have to adjust yourself to what you have. And we didn't really do that last year. I think that was probably the problem. People like Bryce Benhart, okay? I have sworn so much about Bryce Benhart, and because there's 2 games that he cost us where he gave up, letting a guy hit Adrian Martinez, and Martinez coughed up the ball. So, I hope for that guy's sake that he's a lot better this year. But when you have a team and they're crappy at pass protection, you have to do some adjustments where you give the quarterback shorter routes or you get the ball out quick. And I'm not talking about throwing the ball to the sideline, like just something where the back is there and then he moves up as a check down. And that was one of the problems I saw with our offense last year is, Adrian Martinez would be back there, and it's like the plays are developing out there, and there's nobody else there for him to just chuck the ball to get it away from him and get it out of the backfield. So, that's the kind of stuff that you look at and go, how are we going to adjust our play calling and our offense to fit the team we have? So, you want a good offensive line. We're Nebraska, for God's sakes. We need a good offensive line. But
we need a good offensive line and a good running back. That's 2 things, because Nebraska is not operating properly if they don't have both of those things.
I think, we have like 38 running backs, so we damn well better find one of them that can do something.
Yeah, I don't really have much fear in the running backs. I think we'll be good there. Really quick, I want to read this comment. First is from Grant. Grant gave a super chat. He said, happy to see you, John and Connor. Thank you, Grant. Happy to see you here too. And the Crypto Badger. John turned me off last year, but I had to take a step back and be honest about things. We need to improve and we expect results. I'm a fan again, John. Good to see you. John, I think that's a lot of people's feelings towards you. They got turned off with the emotional reactions, but I'm glad that we were able to see more different sides of you on YouTube, because I think you've grown from those just straight up emotional reactions, and you've given some really good takes throughout this offseason. So I'm really excited to see where your channel goes this season.
Well, you know what? I am like Nebraska. Not for everyone.
I like that comparison. Okay, now here's the question from the Crypto Badger. What does John think about Frost calling Ireland a business trip versus Northwestern's coach, who says they haven't been to Europe, so we're going to enjoy it? It seems to be a tense feel versus a relaxed feel, and he sees both sides. What are your thoughts there?
Well, number one, the first thing I'm going to say is this. I don't want to see any photos of Scott Frost golfing. anywhere. Because if he says that, then he has to follow up on it. And second, because if he doesn't, it doesn't matter if he wins or not. That's the problem that I have with Frost is he talks about we need to pay attention to small details, but then he doesn't do it, like the punter punting the wrong side of the field. That's ultimately his responsibility. So, and then you compare it to Northwestern. I mean, Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald's never going to be fired for them, unless he does something really horrifying, but it's obvious that you can see the difference between Scott Frost. If he loses that game, honestly, in my opinion, he should be just fired and left on island. But Pat Fitzgerald, if he loses that game, they're just like, he's lost every game to begin the season for the last 20 years. They'll be fine, and the 5 or 6 side doctors that pay attention to Northwestern football go, poop, and then they'll go to, I don't know, Singapore for the weekend or something,
And what's interesting is I saw a comment from, it was Fitzgerald, and it was talking about the first game being against Nebraska. And he said, this isn't a team you want to open up against. And my first reaction was, that's real beta energy. And I thought, why is he coming out saying, I don't want to open up against Nebraska? Whereas I think Scott Frost would say, we're going to get after it and da-da-da. But then I thought about it. Maybe he's got to play a mind game. Maybe he's got to make the players and the coaches from Nebraska feel like, we're not as ready. We're not as prepared. We've got a shitty roster. So you guys are probably going to work us. And then maybe they come out hot and they throw some things at us that we haven't seen in a while.
Didn't he agree to play this game?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Did somebody just come to him and say, hey, Pat, guess what? We're going to play Nebraska. Start the 22 season in Ireland. He was like, what the fuck? What
to
are we
be
doing
fair, To be fair, they told him that when they were still good. Northwestern was good when they started this plan. Then they ended up just spiraling out. Okay,
who is the guy? Hinkwitz, their defensive coordinator that quit after like 50 years.
I don't even know. I don't know any coaches from Northwestern except
I
for Fitzgerald.
I want to say Mike Hinkwitz. He was their defensive coordinator there for, like honest to God, he had a 50-year coaching career. Not all Northwestern. Then they brought in Jim O'Neill and defensive coordinator. And I don't think he's just going to be as good as Hinkwitz was, because Hinkwitz has been around for years, and he was kind of a, mad scientist, kind of crazy guy with defenses.
Well, it's hard to get a great defensive coordinator to come to Northwestern. I think that guy, Dinkwitz or whatever his name was, understood the culture at Northwestern, understood the type of athletes they would get, and he was able to build that system to work for him. Now you've got an outside guy who comes in. It's going to be a lot harder for him to figure it out. It'll take him more time. So would make sense. I've got another question for you here. It's from Nick. How do you see the Oklahoma playing out? Is it a season breaker if we lose? So I want to give you a scenario.
Okay.
Nebraska lost to Northwestern by 1 point, but they looked great doing it. Their issue was Northwestern ended up looking like a top 25 team. We had no idea. Now, they end up winning the next 2 games by 35 points each. They play against Oklahoma and lose by 7. What's the status of Scott Frost's job? And what's the feel? What do you think's going to happen?
Did you write down these things before I came on here?
I just got this.
I've got 6 scenarios to screw with his mind. That's it.
Well, I just got this comment and it just made my mind think of something. So I got to know what happens in a 2-2 scenario. Are you back on the get rid of this guy? I mean, you'll probably be getting rid of him even if he loses by 1 to a top 25 Northwestern team, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
here's the thing. I don't think you can lose. You lost last year to Illinois, and we all knew how important that game was to set up the season. I honestly think if he loses, doesn't matter how he loses. If he loses to Northwestern, it's not even about him. It's about everything else, and that's the problem. If Frost loses to Northwestern, people are not going to go, oh, Northwestern looks like they might be good. They're just going to go, I'm not going to another home game until this is fixed and done. Kind of like you said earlier. That's the problem. And we make $3 million in revenue for each home game. If people don't start showing up in the seats, there's his buyout in not even a very long time. So,
right.
You can do the whole money and thing. I don't know if you noticed they signed a $80 gazillion contract, and nobody should ever have to worry about buyouts from now on. But you go back to the Oklahoma game. The Northwestern game is really, really. I mean, he really has to win it. And for his sake, I hope he does. I want him to be the coach that we all want him to be. The second coming of Tom Osborne. I don't think he has it in him.
Okay, that's the next question before you continue. Because
Okay.
I want to make sure we're routed on the same page right now. This was a question I did have thought of, or I had thought of earlier today. Do you want Scott Frost to succeed?
Yeah, I do.
If Scott Frost
I
won,
want him to succeed, and that means compete for Big Ten championships. That doesn't mean go to a bowl game. We are Nebraska. We play for championships. If you wanted to be Iowa, go root for them sons of bitches. You know what I mean? If you look at Iowa's program, look at Iowa. Every year, Kirk Ferentz has been around for 23 years now, and every year you look at him and go, could you recruit one decent quarterback? Because they always have a good running back. They have good offensive, defensive lines, good secondary, normally a tight end that they waste like Noah Fant. But quarterback, if they got a good, really good pro-style quarterback, they could probably maybe they could.
Well, no, I don't think it's the quarterbacks. I think they've had decent quarterbacks. The problem is they have settled with offensive coordinators and play callers. I think
That's true.
What is it? Nepotism? Is that what we call that? When you hire your son and he underperforms, but you don't fire him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, back to Scott Frost. I want him to be successful because the narrative is there, right? Nebraska native does good. That's what we're looking for.
Okay.
And for some reason, Nebraska fans have convinced themselves it has to be a Nebraska guy. I think this is really dumb, but that's where we're at right now.
I don't think so.
Don't make me come over there.
I don't think that's what's happened. I think what's happened is Nebraska fans have realized that Nebraska isn't going to go and hire the right coach. They either can't hire the right coach, which you made a video last year. I remember this one specifically. You said, I'm tired of the narrative that Nebraska can't get a good coach. Didn't you say that? Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
There was all that fear about if we fire Scott, well, who's going to come here? Well, but everybody would come here.
Well, is that true?
I think so.
Who would be a viable option that would make the fans happy and that the administration could get behind, who would be obviously paid at least as much as Scott Frost got? Is it a coach that comes from a big school like a Mel Tucker? Is it someone who is an up-and-comer, how Scott Frost was from UCF? Because that's a risky take. Or do you try and go after someone like the guy at Baylor, Dave Aranda? What would be the ideal scenario if Scott Frost was the coach?
We can't go here yet. He isn't even.
No. I'm just curious. Whoa. He's not dead. We're going to have a great season this year. I'm just talking about from a Nebraska perspective, because in the future, at some point, there will have to be another coach. So in the future, what should Nebraska fans expect when you go after a coach?
I'm not sure. But I'll say this. Nebraska, because I'm part of SB Nation, I've had to deal with a lot of other schools, other athletic departments, and I've worked with a lot of people that deal with a lot of other athletic departments. And by and large, people say that Nebraska is one of the best athletic departments in the nation. And that means from how well it's run, from a financial standpoint, from how they take care of their athletes, from how they do everything, the little details. And I think that when you look at Nebraska right now, we went 3-9 in the fourth year of a coach's contract, right? And we still brought in some of the best portal transfer players. Why? Well, because we're Nebraska. We have a fan base that is known everywhere. And that's the one thing we can't lose. We have Neil, we're probably willing to do that because this team feeds this ego of the state, whether if that's good or bad, whatever. Oklahoma does the same thing for Oklahoma. So, I think that no matter what, Nebraska, as long as we stick it together as fans and we keep the fan base together and we keep the interest there before letting it just go too long if it gets too bad, we're going to be fine. So who do you go out and get? I don't think somebody who can competently coach football and put together a staff.
Would a big enough name coach come to Nebraska? Like, is Nebraska at a point where the glory days are still going to help us? Or has Nebraska fallen so far that recruits now don't acknowledge Nebraska as a top 30 school when we're talking about relevancy. I've seen a bunch of polls come out that says recruits don't care about Nebraska how the ones 10 years ago did, which honestly breaks my heart. Does Nebraska have they have the money, but are they going to be able to attract a big name coach? That's the question. Or is it always going to be someone coming from UCF?
I think you have to have the person that can find that person. Let's take a comparison, okay? Paul Bear Bryant was one of the best coaches in the history of football. And he said that when he retired, he was going to die. And he retired in 1982, and he literally died 3 months later. So what did Alabama do after that? They started looking for coaches. And they went through 8 coaches before they finally found Nick Saban. And where did Nick Saban come from?
The NFL.
You know, wasn't he at Miami
Dolphins?
And he just kind of left because he realized he didn't belong there. But I mean, what kind of a resume did Nick Saban really have before that made Alabama say, we're just going to go get this guy? But if you look through Alabama's 8 coaches, I mean, you had Pat Dye, Stallings, whatever. They had some good coaches, but they also had like Dennis Franchione, and who was the Mike Price that didn't even coach a game there before he was fired. But, they went through their stuff, but they worked it out. They didn't suddenly go, we're done being Alabama. We're going to go creep into the background. Now everybody wish they would creep into the background, and they don't. Sons of bitches.
Well, the bright side to all of this is we don't have to worry about it because he's winning 7 games this year. But my prediction was 8. My prediction was 8. Okay. What's your prediction first? Okay, this is the two part. I want to know your prediction. Plus, I want to know what the minimum is. And if we don't hit the minimum, then all that other conversation you and I just had might have to come back up. But what's the minimum?
For me?
Not for you, because with you the minimum's 12. But for Trev Alberts, what will make Trev Alberts say we've got to make a move? You think if they don't win 8 games, Trev Alberts is going to make a move?
Yeah.
Are you saying that? Wait. You fully believe that 8 wins is the minimum for Trev Alberts after a 3-win year?
Yeah, I do.
And after they brought in all these new coaches and they have all these new things you got to sort out. If they won 7, you think he'd really question that?
You know what? If they won 7 and they lost half their offensive line on all their quarterbacks,
maybe that's different.
Maybe. I honestly think he's got to win 8 games minimum.
6 is a problem.
For me, I think the thing is he has to compete or contend for the Big Ten West, because I don't look at the Big Ten. It's not a juggernaut division. It really isn't.
Wisconsin's going to be a 9-win team. Iowa's an 8-win team. Purdue's a 6-7-win team. There's nobody great in the West, so no. I definitely agree with that. I think
Remember I said I work with people that are, Penn State fans, yeah. Wisconsin guy. Okay, Wisconsin guy. I went in the other day, and Wisconsin guy said, I feel like this is a really pivotal year for Wisconsin, because when you look at Wisconsin right now, they have Graham Mertz. Braylon Johnson, is that the running back? Jalen Berger was the one that left. I always get stuck on him. I think it's Braylon Johnson. I mean, they have the makings of a really good team. And he said, if they don't do really, really good this year, I feel like we're just going to fall back into nothing, because their next 2 recruiting classes after this are they're not good. And people are starting to lose a little bit of, Coach Dad Paul Christ is not that good a coach, and we should go find another option. So
they're going to become Iowa.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, Denon. No, okay. So here's the thing with some of those Big Ten West teams and what people don't think about. There's a reason that teams like Wisconsin go out and lose the Rose Bowl to Oregon, because they go and beat up on crappy Big Ten West teams. And that's just the truth of the matter. All of these 10-win Big Ten West teams are 9-win Big Ten West teams, like Iowa getting to 10 wins. They're not a 10-win team in any other conference, maybe in the Pac-12, but they're not a 10-win team in the SEC, even the ACC or Big 12. So, yeah, I think you're right about needing to get some wins. I don't know about 8, but, I'd like to set the standard for 8, and I think 8 is a realistic number for everybody watching. 8 should be very doable. So that should be an expectation. All these 5-win and 6-win expectations I see in the comments, it's a little ridiculous. Nebraska does have a lot of talent and a lot of good coaches here. Okay, the Crypto Badger just dropped a $100 super chat. I don't know what you're doing, dropping $100 in here, bro, but I really appreciate it. I think you've donated 120 so far on this stream, so thank you very much. It goes a long way to support the show.
I need to get a confetti effect.
For real, I need to get something that shouts him out. Okay, so the polar bear is just realizing it's spring. The season is waking up at springtime, and when bears wake up, they are hungry. Does he wake up and feed, or does he go hungry and learn for another season? For those that don't know, polar bear is Nash Hutmacher. So, John, Nash Hutmacher, they've talked about him being potentially a competitor against Stephon Wynn, but it sounds like both of those guys could end up being the number 3 behind Colton Feist. Did you hear about that?
I haven't paid that close attention to that part, but yeah, I mean, but we do this every year. You know what I mean?
Here's a question I have. A lot of people hyped up this defensive line, the transfers like Stephon Wynn, Devin Drew, and I've heard good things about Devin Drew. They said that he's going to be ready to play and he can play all the positions and everything. But do you think the defensive line is going to be that much better this year than it was in the past years where there wasn't as much of a pass rush? Or do you think that people are hyping it up because O'Shawn Mathis transferred in and because Garrett Nelson's returning?
That's a damn good question.
That's the fear I have because we've gotten all excited. But O'Shawn's not even a starter, it doesn't sound like. It sounds like Caleb Tanner's the true starter, and O'Shawn's going to play a lot. But is he as elite as people are trying to make him seem since he's transitioning from the Big 12 to the Big 10? I don't know, man. It's stressful because the defense is all about the front 7 this year.
It is. I mean, the good news is that we get a Northwestern, rock fight. Then we get 2 FCS teams. We really don't know what Oklahoma's going to do, until we get there. And then Indiana, Rutgers. All of those teams aren't going to beat us to death. I don't think that any one of them are really very just nasty physical, maybe Oklahoma. So we have time to develop that stuff too. And the other thing is when people talk about doing like a 3-4 or 4-3, I can see us mixing. I talked earlier about a team, knowing your team and what you can do with them. So I can see where Eric Chenander is going to use his players differently. He's going to, if he needs Garrett Nelson and O'Shawn Mathis on the line at the same time, that's where they're going to be against this opponent that's doing XYZ. I see him being savvy enough to adjust stuff and move people around on the fly. I think the hype, honestly, I think the hyping of the defensive line is because the one thing that happens during off season is our confirmation bias as human beings kicks in for, you know what I mean? It kicks in for everybody, and we're like, yeah, they're going to be good. That's why we call it drinking the Kool-Aid,
Yeah.
I mean, they just go, oh my God, I can't wait to watch this quarterback and this running back. You know what I mean? That's how it goes every year. So, is the defensive line going to be better? God, I hope so. They better. The problem is they need to be able to stand up for a whole season. And we went out and recruited 83 running backs and 245 receivers, and we only got about 4 or 5 linemen on both sides of the ball. I mean, we have a lot of offensive linemen they need to develop, but that was the one thing that I thought was puzzling during the offseason. I mean, we literally lost our coach, and then we lost all of our offensive linemen. And then we went out and got a couple of replacements, and we're depending upon them to serve the world to us. So it's certainly going to be interesting.
Okay. Well, I've got another question for you. This one comes from Nick. Nick, you're a member. Thanks for being a member. Nick wants to know who's going to have a breakout season. So I want to know from you specifically a player who hasn't played very much or a player who transferred in who you're excited to see and you think has potential to have a big year.
We did say this was going to be comments. I should have been better prepared. You know how I want to have a really good breakout season? Bryce Benhart, so I could stop swearing about him and stop letting people hit our quarterback. Anyway, otherwise, who would I actually was preparing to do another video. And let me go back and look at this. A breakout season. Oh, wow. O'Shawn Mathis was on my list just because I think that the thing about Corn Nation is I have a Slack room where all of my writers talk, and each one of them has different things they look at, and everybody has like different. They have different strengths and weaknesses, right? So
Yeah.
I have a guy that particularly pays attention to the NFL. Brian. He's the NFL draft Brian. And he said, yeah, LaShawn Mathis is a big deal, and he should be very excellent. And I guess if you're going to pick out one guy that would be a breakout guy that I would like to see, that would be the guy, because I want somebody that will kill everybody else's quarterbacks and crush them into the ground like a little squishy mashed ant.
Fair enough.
Or my favorite play in football, when they hit the quarterback and he blows up like Mr. Potato Head hitting the wall.
I like when they explode like that. I think that O'Shawn could definitely do that. But the clips I've seen of O'Shawn, he gets back there and he throws dudes around, which I like that too. Any way that they can get the guy on the ground and make it look like it hurt, I'm gonna take.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see some other comments in here if I need to respond to anybody, because I want to make sure the chat is involved. Hey Ty, thanks for being here. John and I are both happy to see you. Can confirm that. How about this question from Nevermind Me? Not a question, comment. I truly believe Nebraska can play for the Big Ten championship. I don't think they have a chance of beating Ohio State, though. So let's say Nebraska miraculously had a huge turnaround year. They won 10 games, and they went to the Big Ten championship. What do you think would happen if Nebraska played Ohio State this year in a crucial game like that? Like, obviously, we don't know what Nebraska's going to look like. We don't know how polished they're going to be. But if Nebraska
if everything
was
works
that
out
good, yeah, if everything works out and they've got to play a team who's that good, do you think Nebraska would have a chance?
Yeah, I do, because Ohio State has their own issues to deal with. I mean, last year they get rid of their defensive coordinator. I mean, what was the last year? Oregon, they played Oregon, lost to Oregon. Did you watch that game?
Ohio State lost by 14 to Oregon at home.
Yeah. And their defense had all sorts of shift problems. I mean, their defense had massive problems. So they have their own problems to work on. And if they're going to get into that high profile where the Buckeyes expect to be, they're going to have to figure out their it's not just about we have all the best players in the world. They have to get their coaching straightened out too. We're talking about a different level for them than us, but that's Ohio State's problem. And why isn't the guy ask about Michigan?
Well, because I don't think Michigan looked as dominant last year. Michigan loses a lot of guys on defense. They've got some new coaches to sort out. Ohio State's just a different beast. The thing I want to know is, do you think there's a chance Nebraska could be like the 2016 Nebraska team we saw, where we ran it up, went 7-1, and then dropped the last, I think, 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5? Do you think there's any possibility of that? We get really excited with a few big wins.
Well, and when you look at the end of the schedule, what is it? Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, not in that order. Yep. Those are all the teams that are, perfectly suited to beat the hell out of us, because there's that defensive line problem. The front seven issue. Are we going to be able to keep the defensive linemen we have healthy, and are they going to be able to withstand those 4 games? So, and the biggest key about that is if we do go like 7-1 and we end the season losing those 4 games, how does everybody feel about Scott Frost then? That's really the kind of the nasty thing about the schedule, is it's like saying, we're on this giant roller coaster, and now it's, now it's just pooping out.
Right, because even if we go 7-1 and finish 8-4, I'd still feel really good. But I've got to think there's going to be some fans who are a little bit hurt by that, because they got some false hope, believing that they could actually win the Big Ten championship or something. But who knows? Yeah. It's a long way away. We still got some months before we start to figure that out. So this question is from Benjamin. He says, do you think Jaquez Yant is a dark horse to be the starting running back? Benjamin, I'm sorry to tell you, the answer is no. It sounds like Yant is a 3rd or 4th option behind Irvin, behind Grant, behind Ramir Johnson. And now it sounds like A.J. Allen has appeared on the scene, and he's been playing really well in practice. So I don't think Yant could start, but I think he is going to be a goal line back. What were your thoughts on Yant last year? How do you hope that they use him this year, or do you hope he plays at all? What's your thought on Yant?
I like him. He's a nice looking kid. He, like you said, we have a bunch of guys, and right now we don't really know that much about him. I thought Gabe Urban looked really good. Ramir Johnson he's going to be the weird guy. What was that thing they talked about, the duck R position or something?
Yeah, the Duck R. That's the old
He's
Wandale
gonna
position.
move around to be the. I hope that Ramir Johnson is the guy that moves around enough and really pisses off defensive coordinators because they can do things with him. You
Yeah,
know,
he's a versatile
that'd be
guy.
where those weird options come in, where we run the triple option involving a wide receiver. Except he's not really. He's kind of a wide receiver, but yeah, I think he'll be in the mix.
I hope
Don't
he can
forget that
play.
last year Minnesota had lost like 18 backs and they get injured.
I think a true freshman started for them last year at some point. Here's another question I have. It's from Richard. Can you ask John what he really thinks about PJ Fleck and how you feel about boats?
I think it's a good slogan. It really is. Row the boat. I mean, he's got a program. Put it this way: I live in Minnesota. This is a Vikings state. Okay, it's a state of hockey, but when it comes to like football, the Vikings are the most popular team here. You know what the second most popular team is?
Tell me.
The Green Bay Packers.
Ah,
This is an NFL state, city, town, whatever. So PJ Fleck has to do stuff to get noticed, and I think he's done a good job of that. I mean, he's beat us. I think it was kind of weird he got off-season plastic surgery that took him from looking like a used car salesman to looking like a serial killer. But maybe that's what his consultant said to do. So, what do I think about him? I think PJ Fleck's a good coach for Minnesota. I think they just, they miss like one or two players that could get them kind of over the top, but I don't really see them. Minnesota doesn't push that hard. You know what I mean?
here's a
They're
question.
they're happy to go to the Outback Bowl.
Is PJ hurting them or are they hurting him?
I think they're fit. I think they're a good fit for each
Good
other.
fit.
Yeah, I don't think it's in Minnesota to be a powerhouse. I really don't.
And you don't think that PJ could be at a powerhouse program?
No, I don't. I think he's a above average good. I would over the long term, I would put PJ Fleck above Kirk Ferentz long term, but I wouldn't put him up where, like a Tom Osborne or a national champion. I don't want to say Lincoln Riley. Bob Stoops, somebody like that's going to take a program to a really high level and keep it there and be able to maintain it. I think he spends a lot of time being PJ.
Makes sense. Well, speaking of the NFL, we got Ice Dragon who said, do you have any thoughts on Samori Toure to the Packers? So, do you pay attention to the NFL?
Yes.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on him at the Packers? I put out a post on Instagram the other day asking people if they thought he would score a touchdown this year. Do you think he's going to play?
Well, okay. Here's the thing with the NFL. When the pandemic hit, I have 3 kids that are, they're adults. And the NFL has become a much bigger thing to us than it ever has because all 3 of my kids do fantasy football. The pandemic hit, and we got together for all the NFL games and just started watching the NFL as a family. And I hate to publicly admit this, but that's largely because years I was intolerable to watch football with. And they've all said this. I mean, they have. They're like, we're not watching fucking football with you. You're an asshole. And they were right. Honestly, I mean, I can get a little carried away, as you might have noticed. But I grew up a Green Bay Packers fan because in my Western Nebraska town, when I was in first grade, one of my friends said everybody has to pick an NFL team, and the only NFL team I even knew about was Green Bay because at that time they were winning championships. So I became a Packers fan for life. So my answer to this is Aaron Rodgers takes every receiver he's ever around and makes them a world-class receiver. So if Samori Toure can run routes, learn his offense, and understand the mind of Aaron Rodgers, which is kind of really creepy when you get into it, he will play and he will catch passes and he will be productive.
I like that analysis. I think that's true. I think that if you're going to go to the NFL and you get an elite quarterback, it greatly improves your chances of being successful. So this question is from Sunflash TJ or JT. He says, what Western Nebraska town are you from?
Curtis.
What is it called?
Curtis is 35
Curtis?
miles south of North Platte.
Wow. So how long was the drive to Lincoln?
Like well, depends on who's driving.
Let's say you're driving when you're 18.
2.5 hours. It's usually
Okay.
like a 3.5 or a 3.5 hour drive.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, Denon, can you just come into the chat now? Let's bring you in.
Okay, because that's really cool. Because let me get in here. I'm from North Platte originally. I live in Illinois
really?
now. Yeah, I lived in Iowa for 10 years too, but I'm from North Platte, and I've had a lot of family live in Curtis too. And of course, you know, in like sports and stuff like that, when I was younger and like JV, we traveled down to like Maywood and stuff like that, like wrestling, stuff like that. So
Yeah,
that's pretty sweet.
we played against St. Pat's when I was a kid.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
friends and some family that went to St. Pat's too. I don't know how many people in the watching this right now familiar with those areas. I'm sure we'll get some
There are a
chat.
few. We've got Sunflash who said Curtis is a great little town. You got
Best water.
86 who said he's originally from McCook in a smaller town and he's been through Curtis a few times. So yeah,
Best water in the world. Best tap water in the world.
I think they actually won some prize or something, didn't they?
Yeah.
For having the best water. I mean, you take it for granted.
Yeah. It is true. I mean, I've had that tap water. It's pretty tasty. I prefer water from up north a little bit further, closer to like Ainsworth or something.
What are you guys what? Okay, I'm from California. We drink bottled water. I don't know what is going on.
You know the
there.
northwest part of the state, though. You know Scottsbluff and
yeah,
Shadron and stuff like that. Those parts I'm not as familiar with.
Okay, you have to understand, Connor. I grew up in a town where when you walked into the bar, what was on the TV?
Nebraska football.
No.
Water.
No, but it's close. You're closer.
You got to tell me. I don't know what was on the TV.
The weather was always on TV because those guys would sit there going, do we have to get up at 4? Or are we going to be able to, just going to rain? I can drink 83 beers.
Oh, wow. The weather was actually important out there. I've never had that.
Oh, yeah.
The weather's the same all the time
weather.
for you.
Yeah, I've never thought about the weather in my life. That's crazy. Okay, so I've got all these comments rolling in, but Denon, I know you had questions that you had pulled from Discord, so I want you to take time to ask those.
But I want to ask a question real quick, and it pertains to the conversation earlier about Northwestern.
Yeah.
John, you mentioned, you know, you really have no tolerance for a Northwestern loss, and I think I agree with you, and here's why. I don't think there's almost no case where Northwestern will be good enough to tolerate a loss. Top 25, just being a top 25 team is not enough for me to tolerate a loss. I will be sorely upset. I won't be fire Scott Frost upset if it's not a blowout and it turns out they are like a 15, but it's definitely going to shorten that leash even more for me. So
yeah.
To that point earlier, I don't think there's any case that Northwestern is a good enough of a team to tolerate it, even if they win the West. I don't know. But anyway, I do have some questions. So I've reached out to our social club Discord, handful of different people on a couple smaller channels, just kind of spitballing for some ideas. And I've had this idea in the past. It was an idea I wanted to do on my own show in the past, but I've never made that work, and I'm here with Connor, and actually really glad because this is way better than anything I could have ever done by myself. So
he is smooth. I mean, he does a good job.
He's so smooth and handsome. Look at that
Wait
smile.
a minute. That was the only thing I had going for me was my good looks over here.
Well, hey, there's an A team and there's a B team. All right. So, also, your roller coaster analogy was great because the top of that roller coaster is after beating is right before the Minnesota game. And when you go that first gut feeling you get when you start to come down the roller coaster, that's the Minnesota loss. If the season works out like that. And then the rest of it's terrible, but that first is that gut feeling. Anyway. All right. So what I'm going to do, and this may become, for all the fans of the show out there, this may become a regular thing. Leave comments. Let us know if you like this. Also,
is this your A-B thing?
Yeah. Or do you want to wait for that?
No. Chat. When he asks A or B, because I don't know what the question is, but when he says A or B, drop an A or a B with whatever your answer is when he does it for John and I. Okay, continue.
Okay, yes. So for comments on the video after the fact, feel free to fill in your questions that you'd like us to do in this A or B segment in the future. Also in the Discord, maybe we'll make a channel where people can put their suggestions for A or B. A or B, meaning you have two answers. You answer the letter A or the letter B to the question.
They know what A and B is, Denon. These people are extremely smart.
Well, I know, but it's going to be opposite ends. These answers.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask.
How about, I've got an idea. You do it. Just ask the question, and if we have any questions or if chat has any questions, they'll ask them. But I think you're explaining to adults.
You can only say A or B. All right, at the end of this question. All right, I'm giving you two options. All right.
We're at the same time, John. We're gonna respond to A and B at the same time.
We're gonna start easy. We got 3 questions. Would you rather have a lockdown corner, or excuse me, A, a lockdown corner, or B, an elite edge rusher? You got to pick one, and you have to say A or B. I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1, and then you give your answer. All right? Ready?
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
B.
A.
Okay.
Wait, B was the edge rusher, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So we don't comment on the answers we give. We don't answer any questions.
Okay.
We don't explain it.
Okay.
All right. So that's
Okay.
it. We'll see what chat's given there.
Okay.
All right. Next question. Who would you rather have dinner with? Nebraska volleyball superstar Lexi Sun. Oh, excuse me. Who would you rather have? I summarized these questions. So, who would you rather have a romantic candlelight dinner with, and a long walk on the beach afterwards? A, Lexi Sun, or B, Amir Abdullah? 3.
Does it have to? What? Does it have to be
1?
Okay. A. Wait, is
B.
whichever one is Amir Abdullah?
B was Amir Abdullah.
I want B.
Okay. That's my answer too.
Okay.
All right. Third question.
No homo chat. No homo chat. No homo on Amir, but
Yeah.
I would hold his hands.
I'd hold his hand. I'd let him
continue.
Hold me.
Come on, Denon.
I mean, it's not. Yeah. As a friend.
Chat. Just so we're on the same page. Chat is on Lexi. They really like Lexi. I haven't seen Lexi.
If I wasn't married,
I'm a family man, so that's part of my motivation.
By the way, Mrs. Coordination, I'm going on a romantic date with Lexi's son. She'd already be going, I knew it was her, and then she'd stab me when I got home. So she so Amir Abdullah would have to be the safe bet. I know we're not supposed to explain that, but
I didn't want to explain either, but I had to know who Lexi's son was because I haven't seen a picture of her before, so I Googled her, and I'm changing my answer to Lexi's son.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know why chat is on A.
Courtney's.
Okay.
Can I say one? Being courtside for volleyball, shooting volleyball, and being around volleyball women, holy shit! It's amazing that this sport doesn't have more of a national presence than it does, because they're all athletic, they're all just amazing. The balls are moving fast. You can keep that line, and it's just an incredible, fabulous sport. And that's all I got to say. We should move on before I get myself in trouble.
I certainly enjoy watching volleyball as a sport more than anything else besides football. If there's anything I watch that isn't football and actually enjoy, I don't mind basketball, but only in the playoffs. Or only later in the season, closer to tournament time and stuff like that for the college level. Volleyball, I can watch anytime. It's just a fun game to watch, and they're extremely talented, and I enjoy playing it too. I enjoy playing football, but that's harder to just go out to the beach and play.
Okay, next question.
Okay, last question. This one, you're definitely not going to want to have to give any explanation on. This one did come from a Discord user who wishes to remain anonymous.
Okay, you're trying to protect yourself. Just ask the question.
All right.
He's doing the
Gabriella
disclaiming
Union.
thing.
Yeah.
Gabriella Union is
Uh-huh.
a top-notch superstar, homegrown Nebraska girl who loves Nebraska football and is adored by the fan base because of her passion for Nebraska football. Or B, is a B-list celebrity working an angle using a fan base that is thirsty for any kind of national attention that they can get.
I'm going A.
3, 2, 1.
Wait, which one? Wait,
A.
I think A.
Okay.
Is A the one where she's a legitimate person and not a
Yeah.
scammer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's legit. I don't think she's trying to finesse the fan base, but when you say it like that, she could be, doing it for a little bit of clout. It's 2022. Everyone's doing shit for clout. Let's be real.
I know. I'm just saying that it could be one of those two. They're extreme on extreme ends, right? So most people probably feel somewhere in the middle. But you had to answer one or the other.
There are a lot of A's and B's from chat. Chat is 50-50. Wow. Crypto Badger, he doesn't know who she is. The name is Gabrielle Union. She's married to Dwayne Wade. She's an actress. She was the guest in 2019 on College Game Day when we lost to Ohio State. She's really pretty. She's probably like, I don't know, 40-year-old woman. But yeah. Were you going to say something, John?
Yes. Scott Frost just announced a little bit ago that Casey Thompson is the starting quarterback.
Oh my
Shocker.
gosh.
I can't believe it.
No way.
I can't believe it.
Over Logan?
Yeah, over Logan Smothers. That's crazy.
Actually, I like
Okay, well,
Logan
at least we've confirmed we know who the quarterback is. Okay. Let's get back to some football talk. And yeah, I see chat. I see you guys are confused, and who knows? We're gonna keep it moving. John, question for you about the quarterbacks.
Uh-huh.
Nebraska's gonna have to have a future at quarterback past Casey Thompson. And they've talked about 2 quarterbacks in practice, specifically lately, that were Richard Torres, who has a cannon arm, and obviously Chubba Purdy, who's going to be the backup. Do you think Heinrich Haarberg has a future at Nebraska now that you have Chubba and you have Richard Torres?
Ooh, you looked at the guy. What was it? His first spring game, I think I met Yoshi, Jamarcus Hardrick, after the game, and I asked him about what he saw in the field, and we did a short interview. Yoshi, I did some interviews with him. It was during the pandemic. We did some bits together. He plays in the CFL as a tackle now. But he said Heinrich Haarberg, he looks the part. I mean, he is a physical specimen. Was he 6'5", 220, something like that? But on the other hand, I mean, you've got so many quarterbacks there. And I think most of that I'm hemming and hawing. Honestly, I don't. If those quarterbacks stick around, I don't know if he's going to get in on the games on anything other than, like I said earlier, making special packages for these guys. He would be a guy that you would do like what Minnesota. I want to say it's Seth Green. Was that the guy's name? The big
Seth
quarterback.
Green was the guy at Minnesota who wore number 17.
Yeah, he was a ram, kind of like a wildcat position. He did what Cole Kramer does now, where he's running specific plays and stuff like that. I would love to see that. I think it's a good mix-up. I would love to see them use quarterbacks like that, just because it would make it doesn't seem to be like that hard if you can take your practice and split up and say, go do reps over here with this package with these guys, and then come back into the game and make defensive coordinators prepare for things that they're not used to, or they're not, you can throw your own little wrinkles in those packages, and I think that'd be fun and interesting and a good offensive strategy.
Yeah, I hope this year they do have different packages for different guys, but I wonder how much it throws the rest of the offense off if you're rotating too many of them in there. How many of the big teams rotate players? Does Alabama have a backup they rotate? Does Ohio State have a backup they rotate? I don't know.
Not like that normally, no. But we're not those teams yet. We could still, mix it up.
We've still got to get tricky. Still got to throw some teams off. So that makes sense. What do you think is more likely? Nebraska beats Oklahoma at home or Nebraska wins at Michigan?
Nebraska beats Oklahoma at home.
What if you had to put a percentage chance on that? Is it like a 40%, 30%?
55.
You think that Nebraska, in your eyes, is the favorite to win that game right now?
Yeah, see, there's two thoughts I have. Here's the thing, and I'm having a hard time with this. Listen, when you do this stuff, when you're creating stuff, nobody likes negative Nelly for the, you know what I mean? They don't. So you can look at this from two different perspectives. I can look at this and say, do I think Scott Frost is going to be the coach I want him to be? Honestly, I don't. But then I take that and I put it over here, and all my bad thoughts, I put it back there and push him down inside. And then I come over here and I say, okay, what if everything does work out? What if Mark Whipple takes over the offense? The offense plays well because we have players. And what if the defense plays well because we seem to have players there? What is going to happen if I take me out of the equation and my biases and look at this team? And I think Oklahoma's got a first-year head coach. They're going to probably change things up. They certainly want to come to Nebraska and beat us because that would make all the old people in Oklahoma happy. Just like if we beat them, I'm old, I would be happy. But I think that's the key. I guess I looked at Harbaugh, and everybody was so, angry about Harbaugh for so long. But
Yep.
Harbaugh had really good seasons. He just didn't beat the right teams. And I think that he is a decent coach. It's whether he's going to make that next step up to great. And plus, going to Michigan and play, I'd give me a home game against Oklahoma, yeah. I do think we have a decent chance if, like I said, things work out, the team comes together, the offensive play calling comes together, the coaching comes together. That's a lot of ifs.
It is a lot of ifs, but I think there's a pretty good chance of it happening too. I'm going to that game. That's going to be my first game back since that Ohio State game, so I got high hopes. Here's a question from the Crypto Badger again. He tipped another $20. Dude, you're going crazy.
Holy cow.
Crypto Badger, you've got to send me an email or hit me on Discord, Instagram, or Twitter so I can send you merch because you donate every stream and it means a lot to the channel, to me, but I got to send you something because this is awesome. So he said, if we have a legit offense and defense and special teams, at what point do we finally get the damn 12th to play? I'm assuming he means the fans. Like Nebraska versus Miami a few years ago, we were rocking. We need that every game. Do you think, John, that the fans have gotten a little lethargic at home games?
I think right now is a very dangerous time for Nebraska football. And the reason why I say that is because, I've been doing this for 16 years. I've had it's not the giantest website in the world, but it is a good measure of things. And I can tell you right now that I thought it was bad last year and when it came to apathy. But this year, it's even worse than it was last year with regards to people just like, I don't want to hear anything about this team until I see them play. When I see them play, I want to see them win. And so I think I've always told people this, and I use myself as a reference. When I was in college, I have buddies that went to the game, and they'd take 151 Bacardi into the games, and we'd have to carry them out at halftime. I never did that because I enjoyed the football games more than I enjoyed drinking. Well, like that during football games anyway. But I think most Nebraska fans, if you stood them up to 98% of the fans in the rest of the nation, they know football pretty well. It's part of our culture. And I think if you put a product on the field that they can be happy with, they can be proud of, they will just take all of that apathy and all that stuff, and they'll weep in the stands. I could go on there, but you know what I mean? I think that it will be okay, but we're going somewhere, and a massive amount of happiness will be displayed.
I think I feel the same way. If we were a team who was even 4-1 or 5-1 at the halfway point, I'd be ecstatic. I'm already excited to watch this team when they're losing. So imagine if we were winning. That would be wild. Okay, John, I want to know what your game plan is. So you talked about in your last couple videos somewhere that you had a brain issue now.
Yeah.
It's been acting up on you. So what's happening specifically? I'm just curious. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because 3 Husker shows, myself, you, and Adam Carricker have all had major health issues in the last few months. And mine was obviously very simple. I had my surgery a few weeks ago. I got to do 1 day of chemo, just so you guys know. In September, I got to do 1 day of chemo. And then move past that. I got to do like 5 years of surveillance or something. But after that, we're moving on. Carricker posted today that he's back. He posted on Twitter and that he has a video. So finally, we'll see some content from him. Now, you said in your video that you can't get as into the content as in depth. So what do you think the outlook is for your season?
You mean for YouTube?
For you, yeah, for the content.
Well, here's the thing. All right, the story is August 21st, 2015, I had a widowmaker heart attack. I was dead for 20 minutes. Because of that, I have an anoxic brain injury. The thing with brain injuries is you never recover most of the time. I mean, TBI, traumatic brain injury, covers a huge umbrella of problems. But through most of the last 4 or 5 years, I have chronic headaches, and they've been manageable. And lately, for some reason or another, they've become intolerable at times. Fatigue has taken over. What I really wanted to do this last month before the season started is I wanted to actually do what you do, like edit a video maybe. I wanted to do some more, really kind of more in-depth videos where, I was examining statistics or examining specific components about football. And that's the stuff that I didn't do. I probably will keep doing the reaction videos. Put it this way. I don't socialize. Okay. I don't. Right now, because I work full time in IT, it exhausts me. I really, it's probably coming to the end of the career on that, but I get exhausted. I don't go out and see people. I don't go places. YouTube is I pretend I have an audience. If I said Les Nessman at WKRP, would you know what I was talking about?
No.
See, you're young. Les Nessman was this geeky radio guy at WKRP Radio. It was a TV show, and he would pretend he was doing presentations to hog people. Okay. Oh, hog people, stop cheering so loudly, that kind of stuff. For me, YouTube is this outlet that I am not getting otherwise. So I will probably do my best to do just like reaction videos that are poorly edited, depending upon how the season goes, full of profanity. You can see how the lighting is. I wanted it to be even starker, but I didn't get that done. But well, John, I'm going to try to do YouTube because I enjoy it. I enjoy the interactions. You're kind of a cool guy. I would say that the biggest thing I have over you is my good looks, but everything else you took. I mean, look at your lighting. It's just so nice.
As you said that, my light just went out. John, what are you doing to me? My red light's gone. You jinxed me. Anyway, okay, so John, here's my take on it. Yeah. I think the most value you bring on YouTube is the emotional fan reaction. I think it's funny. I think it's entertaining. I think you give a really good breakdown of what happened, but from the emotional standpoint. And I think that a lot of fans hope you do that this year. I hope you do it this year because I watch it right after every game. My video takes 8 hours to get up. Yours comes out right away. So I hope you continue to do it. And I know I'm going to push my audience to keep watching your stuff because they all obviously want to consume as much as they can. But the Crypto Badger donated another $10.
What?
He said,
crypto isn't failing as much as everybody says then.
This dude knows what he's doing with his crypto. Hey, we can definitely meet up for a game, brother. Thank you again for the $10. John, I'm going to send you some merch. I told you that. So my merch is great. It's awesome. I love it. You'll like it. I'm definitely going to have you back on for shows during the season. Right now, we're at the slowest point and stuff to talk about. It's just, we got another week and a half, and then the conversation's going to get really fun once we see the product on the field. So I've got one more question, and then I'm going to let you go. Okay. Richard says, ask John how much it will take for the "there is no hope" phrase to come back.
It never left. You know what I mean? That's the thing about it. I just happened to say it and people picked up on it. Somebody sent me a photo on Twitter last Christmas, and it was this handkerchief. And this woman sent me this photo on Twitter and said, look what I made for my husband for Christmas. And it was a hand-embroidered Nebraska handkerchief that said, there is no hope. Fuck everything, go Big Red, in red embroidered letters. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done? So I think, I'll be honest with you, living the life I've had to live the last 7 years, you have to get up every day believing in hope. You really do. There's been days lately where it's been extremely hard to get out of bed just because the headache pain has been terrible. But um, I that it's kind of become a catchphrase. I really don't want it to stick with me forever. Um,
Now, we
I
need to
think if
inject some positivity into your situation. Shit.
yeah, I think that if we lose to Northwestern, it's just going to be said until we figure out who our coaching staff is next. But I don't actually think we're going to lose to Northwestern. I think we're going to beat the holy shit out of Northwestern because of two things. I think number one, if you look at Northwestern historically, they usually spend the first 2 games or 3 games of the season figuring out what they're doing because they have they don't get the recruiting classes everybody else does just because they're Northwestern. But there's a lot of pressure on us. Plus, there's the defensive coordinator. I don't think that their defensive coordinator is going to be as good as they've been in the past, and they're just missing too many pieces for things to come together.
Especially in week 0.
Yeah, Mike Hinkwitz was defensive coordinator, their old guy. He was the guy. Remember, I talked about knowing your players and knowing what you could do. He was exceptional at that, and I think that's really what Northwestern is really, really good at. But they have to spend those first 2 weeks every year finding out who are our players and what's going to happen. What can we actually do that's going to, generate, just do enough to get other teams into a rock fight. And because that's what Northwestern does to people.
Fair enough. Well, the Crypto Badger has a final message for you. He said, much love to both of you. Heads up when the cards are down. I think that is very important, especially going into this year. Things haven't been looking good, but I can guarantee brighter days are ahead, especially after we beat Northwestern by more than 12. Denon, you can send me on my outro. I'm going to give my final, and you guys can say goodbye to Jon. It was great to have him here. Thank you very much, Jon, and we're going to have you back.
I'd be happy to come anytime.
Yeah,
I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything, so
Yeah, you'll be back on during the season then.
Okay.
So, guys, I want to let you know I've got the merch site up. I told you that earlier, but the merch site looks really good. I just want you to check it out. Don't got to buy anything. Just look at it because I put so much work into it. Hours. Actually, it would actually add up to days on the amount of time that I spent on the phone with my manufacturers and with the designers and with everything I had going on and put into it. But just look at it and tell me what you guys think because your feedback is really what I'm here for. But this week, I've got 2 videos that are coming out. Number 1, I'm going to do a reaction to some of your guys' bold predictions and the hot takes. So if you guys haven't commented any of those, go to my last video or be in Discord, Instagram, literally anywhere that you want to drop it. Drop a question or a hot take. I'm going to react to it and make a video this weekend. After that, I've got the Northwestern prediction video. That'll come out probably Tuesday, a few days before the game. Give you guys time to watch that and let me know your thoughts on what is actually going to happen. We've got a live stream next week before the game. Don't know who the guest is yet, but I promise you it'll be someone you want to see because that's what we do here. We bring the best guests because you guys are the best subscribers. But with all of that and with all of this, we were here for over an hour and we've got 275 people here right now. So thank you for being here until the very end. I will see you guys in my next video and I'll see you next week. Go Big Red.